Hey everyone. Today we'll be going over Don't Crash and Burn, where we'll be able to help you enhance your SIM effectiveness and the SOC productivity you have with leveraging breach and attack simulations. My name is Eric Bang, and I'm one of our senior solution architects here at Picus Security. Today, in the world of many SOC as a services, and MSSP programs, there's a detection gap when it comes to the attacks that happen in real world scenarios, as well as today's threat landscape. Based on research, we have identified that 37% of attacks were actually only logged at the SIM, while 16% of attacks actually triggered an alert. That's because there's a level of configuration and maintenance needed by SOC engineers, detection engineers, where you might need to configure the proper log forwarding via syslog, WMI, or PowerShell to your single source of truth. The secondary component is being able to have the right rule sets in place to actually help filter millions and millions of events that might come through the SIM to actually alert and trigger any kind of notification to the SOC team. The goal here, and one of the many challenges, is being able to, again, properly configure the right event sources to that centralized source of truth, having good quality alert creations or custom rule sets that might not come out of the box, but also continually maintaining and monitoring your existing detection rule sets to help improvement in performance over time. With that, there's a limitation of staff and resources that might be required to help manage this SIM properly within your own environment and infrastructure. Where Picus addresses the detection efficiency and efficacy of your tools come in a three-step solution approach. Here we leverage two solutions called security control validation and detection rule validation, where we're one, able to validate your existing rule sets, seeing how well they're actually populating logs related to the rule sets in relation to a potential alert creation, to then actually validating actual logs creations and ingestion through proper parsing and normalization. Finally, we then can forcefully trigger alerts within your existing rule sets based on a threat-centric approach. We can then simulate and actually run attacks in your environment to know for certain with confidence that your rules will actually trigger before an actual day of a breach. Within the first step is the first automate basic rule hygiene. With everyday threat actors, there is a framework, being the MITRE ATT&CK framework, that has been discovered for various techniques, tactics, and procedures that should be covered within your existing rule sets. So what we do here at Picus is API into your existing SIM technology to validate the below we see here, being, are there actual coverage when it comes to available log sources? Has there been a firewall event related to a potential firewall alert rule that has actually been aggregated to your SIM technology? The second step is to fine tune your alert frequency. How often are these rules actually being triggered? Are they creating too much noise? Are we wasting our resources or our SOC analysts investigating and triaging false positives? And how often are those actually occurring? The third step is to remove performance bottlenecks. How quickly are those logs actually being parsed and normalized to the actual SIM? With that can come an excess number of indexes or syntax or wildcards that could be within the rule set that might take and affect the rule performance to trigger within a proper internal SLA timeframe that's been defined by the organization. And finally is to make sure that you have as much of the MITRE ATT&CK framework covered when it comes to your existing rules, and where you can start to implement and create new rules to have as much coverage as possible, knowing that you're covering every single TTP within the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Picus also has the capability of simulating real world threats in your own environment. At the end of the day, you can only assume your logs are aggregating to your SIM at a sense of the assumption. What we do here at Picus is forcefully run attacks in your environments to see if those rules or those logs are actually being aggregated based on a threat-centric approach. By APIing into your SIEM technology, we can start to understand and prioritize new data sources that require logging capabilities or gaps within your environment. Are you having the right event IDs or codes being populated within the SIEM technology? Are we actually having full visibility when it comes to all of our assets within our infrastructure? We then can determine if the logs from the relevant sources are being ingested into your SIEM in a timely manner. With that can come an attack timeline of a simulation where an execution of a certain TTP or payload was ran in your environment and how quickly was a log actually aggregated to that SIEM technology. And finally, we're here to ensure that logs that contain the requisite level of data granularity is enough for our SOC engineers or analysts. Do they have enough information to do the proper triaging, to reduce false positives and exercise any kind of incident response playbooks? Although we might have the right log aggregation in place, we also want to validate the alert creation that's generated when triggered. Does my team actually have the right rule sets in place within my SIEM technology to determine if we're missing any kind of alert rule sets? Or is there redundant type rules that are adding too much noise of the same type of event? And which of these rules are actually in functionality performing to the actual operations of our SOC team? By being able to simulate real world attacks, we can validate our alert rule sets by actually running attack behavior in your environment and automatically determining if those rules or alerts are being generated. Many a times we're waiting for an actual breach or the day of an attack to realize where our gaps are in our rules. This helps forcefully run playbooks within our environment, be able to then test our people, processes, and technologies to know that they're meeting up to requirements or expectations when it comes to the one, visibility aspect, but being actually able to run incident response strategies to exercise within our team before an actual breach. And the goal here is to be as proactive as possible. As we start to surface logged events that don't generate alerts and measure delays between security events and alert generation, how do we know for certain that those are going to actually be triggered in a timely manner? This is what Picus does to help your team be more proactive in making sure that the existing rule sets or new rule sets could be added to your SIEM technology. What differentiates us in the space is how do we go about helping your SOC team or engineers create new rules that might be missing within your alert set? By being able to get log sources and recommendations and event configuration suggestions, we can, for example, identify audit policies that aren't enabled on your assets. Here, without the right auditing policies enabled properly, we won't know for certain or have that visibility when it comes to being blind to such activities or behaviors within our environment. We then help SOC teams determine what audit policies might be missing so they can go about configuring their log aggregation or forwarding properly. Where we take it a step further is our Picus Labs team actually creates and generates rules within our own environment. By being able to run simulations against our own infrastructure and having a license with the various technologies within the SIEM space, we're able to determine with our blue team and our red team to determine what best practice might be available when it comes to implementing a certain rule set into our environment. That being a query, we then test and regularly validate our suggestions to reduce your time to value or mitigation or detection for your SOC engineers. By easily reducing the burden of your SOC teams and increasing your detection efficiency or efficacy, they can then copy and paste a suggested rule pre-built by Picus to quickly implement and test and validate and run that simulation again to know for certain that rule will actually trigger in their environment. Our goal here ultimately is to improve your detection efficacy for increased impact and outcome. Help you identify where your blind spots are from a threat-centric approach, running simulations to maximize your SOC effectiveness. Are they properly having the visibility they need? Are they running the proper incident response playbooks in a timely manner? And how quickly can we help equip those teams to then have that capability to mitigate and detect in the future if there are any identified blind spots? And ideally, we want to operationalize the MITRE ATT&CK framework. They help us discover and do the research of traditional attacker behaviors based on the TTPs that are implemented and provided by the framework, and then being able to map those within our platform so that you can have the most coverage when it comes to various attacker behaviors in today's threat landscape. And overall, we want to be able to decrease attacker dwell time, being able to determine how quickly is your team being notified in a timely manner, but again, reducing false positives so that they're not wasting their time or their resources when it comes to being able to optimize the operations of your SOC teams. That does sum up today's presentation. Feel free to reach out to picussecurity.com, or if you have any questions, reach out personally, as we are here to help you optimize your existing SIEM technology for your overall SOC team at the organization that you might be protecting and detecting. Thank you.